That's my promise. And just give me a second. So I'm going to share my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes, Prabhuji. You can make a little bigger, Prabhuji.
Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtaki. Hare Krishna. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam 1.7.7. I request one devotee to be my chorus.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you. Yasham Vai Shuryamanayam
Yasyam vai shruyamanayam
Krishne Parama Purushe
Krishne parama purushe
Bhaktir Utpadyate Pumshaha
bhaktir uppadyate pumsaha
Shoka Moha Bhayapaha.
shoka moha bhayapaha.
Thank you, Mataji. Now, word by word meaning. Yasham, this Vedic literature. Why? Certainly. Shurya Manayam, simply by giving oral reception. Krishna, onto Lord Kṛṣṇa. Parama, Supreme Purushe, onto the personality of Godhead. Bhaktai, feeling of devotional service. Utpadyate, sprout up. Pumshaha, of the living being. Shoka, lamentation. Moha, illusion. Bhaya, fearfulness. Apaha, that which extinguishes. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Simply by giving oral reception to this Vedic literature, the feeling for loving devotional service to Lord Kṛṣṇa, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, sprouts up at once to extinguish the fire of lamentation, illusion, and fearfulness. Purport. There are various senses of which the ear is the most effective. This sense works even when man is deep asleep. One can protect himself from the hands of an enemy while awake, but while asleep, one is protected by the ear only. The importance of hearing is mentioned here in connection with attaining the highest perfection of life, namely, getting free from three material pangs. Everyone is full of lamentation at every moment. He is after the mirage of illusory things and is always afraid of his supposed enemy. There are primary symptoms of the material disease, and it is definitely suggested herein that simply by hearing the message of Srimad Bhagavatam, one gets attachment for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. And as soon as this is affected, the symptoms of material disease disappear. Srila Vyasadeva saw the all-perfect personality of Godhead, and in this statement, the all-perfect personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is clearly confirmed. The ultimate result of devotional service is to develop genuine love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Love is a word which is often used in relation with man and woman, and love is the only word that can be probably used to indicate the relation between Lord Krishna and the living entities. The living entities are mentioned as Prakriti in the Bhagavad Gita, and in Sanskrit, Prakriti is a feminine object. The Lord is described as Paramapurusha, or the Supreme Male Personality. Thus, the affection between the Lord and living entities is something like that between male and the female. Therefore, the term love of God, it is quite appropriate. Loving devotional service to the Lord begins with hearing about the Lord. There is no difference between the Lord and subject matter heard about Him. The Lord is absolute in all respects, and thus there is no difference between Him and the subject matter heard about Him. Therefore, hearing about Him means immediate contact with Him by the process of vibration of the transcendental sound. and the transcendental sound is so effective that it acts at once by removing all material affections mentioned above. As mentioned before, a living entity develops a sort of complexity by material association, and the illusory engagement of material body is accepted as an actual fact. Under such false complexity, the living being under different categories of life becomes illusion in different ways. Even in the most developed stage of human life, the same illusion prevails in the form of many isms and divides loving relationship with Lord, and thereby divides the loving relationship between man and man. By hearing the subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam, this false complexity of materialism is removed and real peace in society begins, which politicians aspire for so eagerly in so many political situations. The politicians want a peaceful situation between man and nation, but at the same time, because of too much attachment of material domination, there is illusion and fearfulness. Therefore, the politicians' peace conferences cannot bring peace in the society. It can only be done by hearing the subject matter described in the Srimad Bhagavatam about Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. The foolish politicians may go on holding peace and summit conferences for hundreds of years, but they will fail to achieve success until we reach the stage of re-establishing our lost relationship with Krishna. The illusion of accepting the body as the self will prevail, and thus fearfulness will also prevail. As for the validity of Sri Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there are hundreds and thousands of evidences from revealed scriptures, and there are hundreds and thousands of evidences from personal experiences of devotees in various places like Vrindavan, Navadvip, and Puri. Even in Kaumudi dictionary, the synonyms of Krishna are given as the son of Yashoda and Supreme Personality of Godhead, Parabrahman. The conclusion is that simply by hearing the Vedic literature, Srimad Bhagavatam, one can have direct connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, and therefore one can attain the highest perfection of life by transcending worldly miseries, illusion, and fearfulness. These are practical tests for one who has actually given a submissive hearing to the reading of the Srimad Bhagavatam. ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य अज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदामयं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवंश श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांता श्री राधा कांता नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वंशाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। त्वं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनतारणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्येश्वरम्। Hare Krishna. So today Prabhupada's purport is very elaborate purport. And when Prabhupada is writing elaborate purport, which means Prabhupada is speaking his heart out. So it is very important that we go to all those points and try to understand how much effort Prabhupada is putting there, giving so much detailed explanation. And like we have heard in the previous shlokas also, and that's the beauty of Srimad Bhagavatam, because in Srimad Bhagavatam, we get the same topic repeated time and again, and Krishna is present. I mean, Lord Krishna is so intelligent that Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam are designed in such a manner that, you know, if one reads the entire book with dedication, then it is very certain that people are going to get the real message out of it. Sometimes devotees are scared. They say, Prabhu, I read one topic and I forget other topic. How do I manage this? Will I remember all this? So the seniors advise that you keep reading. It's okay. If you forget, it's fine. So why do they say it's fine? because they know that if you keep reading, the same topic will be explained in different manner in the pastimes, by so many pastimes, by so many stories, by so many analogies. And of course, when Prabhupada gives the purport, then he explains time and again the same points in different shlokas. So that's the point. If we keep reading, it will be so many times repetition that we are going to get that thing fixed in our mind. So don't worry about forgetting. If you are forgetting, keep reading. So that's the point here. So Prabhupada is giving a lot of importance on hearing in this shloka also. If we see Lord is mentioning, I'll just read it again. So the translation says, simply by giving oral reception to this Vedic literature, the feeling for loving devotional service to Lord Kṛṣṇa, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, sprouts up at once to extinguish the fire of lamentation, illusion, and fearfulness. So see here, Prabhupada is also explaining, and in the shloka also it is mentioned very clearly that if we are hearing, and if we are, if just by hearing, what is going to happen? The love of Supreme Personality of Godhead is going to sprout up in our heart, and the outcome of that is going to be that the fire of lamentation, illusion, and fearfulness, we are all burning in these fires, everybody. If you are not practicing Krishna consciousness, then we are in this fire only. And if we are practicing Krishna consciousness also and not practicing properly under the guidance of his senior Vaishnava, then we are still in the fire. So it is very important that we understand these topics very, very clearly and practice Krishna consciousness under guidance. So hearing is given a lot of importance in this shloka, and Prabhupada is giving an example that if some person is sleeping, they can still be saved by hearing. There is a story that there was a person sleeping, and he was alone in the house, and then suddenly he heard some vessels falling. So what happened, there were some thieves who entered his house, and because they were trying to steal something, some vessels, something fell on the ground, and it created a huge sound. Now because of that sound, the person was awake, and it saved him, for his house. So he could save his house from the robbery, and he could also save his life. So we would also have heard many stories like this. Somebody was sleeping and suddenly something happened. He heard, so he or she ran out and then they were saved. So that sense, hearing sense, is still active when we are sleeping. We may not be able to see anything when we are sleeping, but see, hearing sense is visible. I mean, hearing sense is still active. So that is why hearing is very important. We also notice this. Can some let me ask this question, and you can raise your hands or thumbs up. How many of you get up in the morning by alarm? I know many devotees practice Krishna consciousness seriously, and they get up just by on their own. So still we have some devotees, yeah, wonderful devotees who get up when the alarm is there initially. And this alarm is actually saving us, right? If the alarm is not there, then we are not going to be getting up for the Brahma Muhurta until unless we are very much perfect. So we have to be dependent on this alarm. But see, this alarm is active. The moment alarm goes, we can understand, oh, it's time for chanting. Okay, Hare Krishna, get up. So see, that's the beauty. Our sense is active even we are sleeping. So this way, practically, we can understand that how important is this hearing sense. So last point I will mention on this hearing important is that when we hear about Navavid Bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. So see, Shravanam is the one which is coming on the top. The first one, the first point is Shravanam. So that is why this hearing is very important. So one example I can quote, 2 to 3 years back in North India, there were some earthquakes coming, Delhi and my native place also. And earthquake is, like you all know, even the scientists cannot predict earthquake. So that time, what people used to do, they developed a new kind of a mechanism to understand if, if they're sleeping in the night and earthquake is there, what would they do? So what they did, they took two glasses. Like, for example, I have this glass here. So this glass, I don't know if it is visible or not. So this glass, okay. So this glass is like this, and you keep another glass on top of this like this. So two glasses are kept on each other, like on top of each other, and then on top of the glass there is a plate kept. Okay, so they used to place those kind of vessels in on the ground, and the idea is when they are sleeping, and if there is an earthquake, then these vessels is going to fall. So when these glasses and plates they will fall, so immediately there will be sound, and by that sound they can get up and they can save their life. So see that point, hearing is is beneficial. Hare Krishna, am I audible?
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Hare.
Prabhu, am I audible?
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Yes, Prabhu, you are audible. Maybe you can remove
Yes,
the
Prabhuji.
video, Prabhu,
Actually,
so that.
yeah. Actually, the power cut is there, so my connection went off. So I have connected through mobile.
Oh, okay.
I'll be off
Sure,
the video. Thank you, Prabhu,
Yes.
for covering up for with the japa. So I think we were talking about the point earthquake story that devotees could save their life when there was an earthquake. So they used to place the vessels in such a manner that there will be sound in if earthquake comes. So many times we have the false alarms also. Like some cat used to come, it used to hit those vessels, and they used to think, oh, earthquake has come. They used to run out. So like that used to happen. But yes, the overall point is that we can understand, we can hear even if we are sleeping, and that hearing tool is very, very important. It is a gift which is given to us, and the most important gift, hearing. So now, but the question comes, if we are hearing, then what we should hear, that is more important than that hearing sense. What is important, I mean, we hear, that is good, but what are we going to hear, that is more important, even more important. So some examples we can see, like from the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, how he converted so many Buddhists who used to, who are following their own methods of practicing. So, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he could preach big groups, at one shot. So once Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met these Buddhist people, and there was Buddhist leader who tried to cheat Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So what he did, he brought a big plate, and he said, this is Mahaprasadam. And what he did in the plate, he hid some non-vegetarian food, thinking that Lord Chaitanya will take that, and that will spoil his practicing. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, like Garud Dev is always protecting the devotees, and he's always with the Lord. So even before the plate could reach Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Garud Dev, what he did, he took off, he snatched the plate, and he went in the air very high, and he threw that non-vegetarian food at one side. Okay, and then from top only he threw that that big plate, which was olden days we used to have very heavy plates, made up of brass or silver or gold, which were quite heavy. Those were not like today's plates, which we have very small plastic kind of plates, steel plates. No, those plates were very heavy plates, some worth like some kgs or something. So the plate came and fell on the head of this Buddhist guru, and because of that, this Buddhist guru fell on the ground and he was unconscious. Now, this Buddhist guru fell unconscious, so all his disciples, thousands of disciples, they came running to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They said, oh, our guru is no more, and what will we do? Please bring him back to his senses. So that point of time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, what he advised? He told his disciples, not Chaitanya Mahaprabhu disciples, all the disciples of this Buddhist, he said, all thousand of you start chanting the holy name and do a big kirtan, and put him in right in the center of the kirtan. So all these Buddhist disciples, they started chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra loudly, singing Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Like that, they were singing for 45 minutes to 1 hour. And by hearing this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra by his own disciples, this Buddhist, this Buddhist guru, he came back to his senses. And when he came back to his senses, he stood up, and the first word he spoke from his mouth was Hari Hari, Hari Hari, he spoke. And then Gauranga Das Prabhu, he explains that this was the first time in the history that the disciples became this type, the disciples got the enlightenment before before the guru could get the enlightenment. So that was a very nice pastime which I heard long back. But the point here is that hearing. So if we are hearing these things, then it is going to be beneficial. Hearing the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, And then we see that Srila Prabhupada, he heard from his guru. Just one time he met and he could hear and he could understand, oh, that message is so important. Otherwise, Srila Prabhupada was not interested in bhakti. He was interested in the freedom struggle. But see, after meeting his guru, that is Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, immediately decided, okay, I'm going to follow this path of Krishna consciousness, which is very important. That was possible by hearing. And then we see Prabhupada when he was preaching his disciples in US. So all his disciples who heard him very seriously, they all became wonderful devotees, exalted Vaishnavas they became because they heard him from his heart. They could get the message from Srila Prabhupada very clearly. So see, even though they had a lot of bad habits, they had never heard about Krishna, but because they heard from Srila Prabhupada with full attention, they could become wonderful devotees and transform several and several thousands of devotees across the world. So that's the power of hearing. We heard how Srila Prabhupada heard from his guru. We heard how Prabhupada's disciple heard from him. We heard that how Arjuna heard Krishna, in the he did not hear from any source which is not a valid source. He heard from Krishna. He took all his guidance from Krishna. So see, that's the power of hearing. If we hear from the right source, then it is going to benefit us in so many ways. But on the other hand, if we do not hear from the right source, then it is going to impact us also. The same weapon which is with us can go against us. Like we have examples of, Kaikai, Mother Kaikai hearing from mantra and destroying the entire peace and, bringing havoc in Ayodhya, troubling the life of so many people. See, one wrong advice from mantra and one wrong hearing from Mother Kekai, what an impact it was. So that is why we have to be very careful because it is not that it is only we who are going to get affected. It can cause a harm to the entire community, society, and bring trouble for everybody. So that is why we need to be very careful that what are we hearing. So this mantra, initially mantra was only one, but now mantra, in Kali Yuga you will find mantras hiding everywhere. In every house there is one or two mantras are there. And not only every house, every society, every college, office, everywhere you have several mantras. So we have to be careful that we do not hear from these mantras because one mantra could do so much damage. Then just imagine several mantras joining together, what damage they can bring. So that is the point I'm making again, that bad hearing, hearing from wrong sources can bring trouble. Duryodhana, he got all his advice from Shakuni. See, he did not find any better guru. That was the horrible guru he got. And see what happened to Duryodhana. His entire family got eliminated. His brothers were killed. He was thrown out. What a difficulty. So because he heard from Shakuni. So one important thing here is that, these hearings from mantra and Shakuni, when these people, they explain it to us, it is very, very soothing to the heart. We feel, oh, it is very nice. They are talking about our good. They will never chastise. They will only appreciate, oh, you are doing very good, or you are the best, or rest are all fools. You should be getting this. So when somebody is telling us all these things, we must immediately understand that this person is not our well-wisher. He or she is not telling the truth, but they are only saying what is pleasing to our heart. And see, it was pleasing to Kekai's heart, it was pleasing to Duryodhana's heart, but see, it became destruction for them later on. But on the other hand, if you see the message given by our acharyas, they may not be immediately pleasing to our heart, but when we follow that, immediately, after a point of time, we become so blissful that our entire family is blissful, our community, our ancestors, everybody get benefited by those messages. So many times, like Prabhupada is mentioning, there are sophisticated preachers who come and they develop many isms. Like nowadays, also we have various foundations, Isha Foundation, Art of Living. There is one Acharya Prashant who is preaching. There are many people who are saying so many things. They come in a very nice dress and very sophisticated kind of technology they use. They have many followers and they say that, okay, you don't have to read Bhagavad Gita in the old fashion. We will tell you the new method and you follow this, you will become very nice. You can apply this in your life. But see, they all are the people who are going to fool the society. And that is what Prabhupada has already mentioned, 50 years back, that these many isms are present which will take away our Krishna consciousness. We have to be careful. We should not hear from them. And in our devotee community also, sometimes we hear people talking about their own glory. Sometimes they talk about ill about others. So Gaurang Das Prabhu says that, we are in ISKCON. So ISKCON means that, when we hear these kind of stories, so we have to just pass it from ISKCON to USKCON. Kan means in Hindi, Kan means ear in Hindi. So ISKCON matlab you hear from this ear, and USKCON means you have to remove it from that ear. You do not have to think over it. You don't have to meditate. So he says ISKCON to USKCON about our, all these negative talks which we hear. We don't have to take it, and that is why we are in ISKCON. So that's a very nice, way to remember ISKCON to USKCON, and that is why we are in ISKCON. And last point, Prabhupada says that real love is between Lord and Jiva. So nowadays we see so many movies, so many songs, hero is singing for heroine, things like that. So that's not the real love, because that is only temporary. That max to max it can be for this lifetime. But Krishna has been with us throughout. When we go in a different animal's body, Krishna comes with us. When we become a demon, Krishna comes with us. When we become a devotee, Krishna comes with us. So by this logical understanding, we must understand that the real love is between Krishna and the Jiva. It is not between other living entities. Definitely not between other living entities. And if it is not between our other living entities, then why do we sing those Bollywood songs, Hollywood songs for a women, or women singing for a man? Because the real love is between Krishna and the Jiva. So, you see the example of Narad Maharishi. We heard from Mathurapati to previous classes. He was a Gandharva, and he was praising Supreme Personality of Godhead. Some song like for example, we can say Brahma Samhita. If suppose he was singing Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha, he was singing. Suddenly he started praising some other women, some other Bollywood song. Tujhe dekha to ye jana sanam, like that. So if you sing like that, then definitely there is going to be troubles. And that is what happened with even with Narad Maharishi's previous life, as a Gandharva. So by all these points, we can conclude that we must hear about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If we hear about Supreme Personality of Godhead, then our relationship with Krishna will sprout in our heart. And the benefit is that, number one, we are going to get connected with Krishna, who is our real love, because he is there with us all the time. And second thing is, those three things, like we discussed, lamentation, illusion, and fearfulness, it will go away from our life. Here in the translation, it is mentioned it is going to at once extinguish the fire of lamentation. We are all burning in that. So with this hope that we all nicely hear the pastimes and glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and re-establish our lost connection with Krishna, by seeking the guidance and association of the Vaishnavas. So I would give a pause here. If you have any questions on this regard, or if you want to make any corrections, you can do that. If I have committed any mistakes, I seek, your forgiveness. Hare Krishna.